it's Joe Pardavila. You are listening to the Forbes Books podcast, and COVID-19 gave small businesses the chance to reevaluate their challenges and reimagine their business. And now, over 70% of small businesses believe their business is better off now than it was 1 year ago. So how did small and medium-sized businesses not only survive, but thrive during and now after the pandemic? Joining me this week is Wendy Taccetta, Verizon Business's Senior Vice President for Nationwide Small Business and Channel Chief. Wendy's here to talk about their recent Small Business Recovery Survey and the effect of Verizon's products and services on small businesses. Wendy, how are you?
I am fabulous. I'm glad to be here.
Me too. And I have to point out, it's funny, when I speak to your Verizon team members, man, can they make your titles any longer?
They can, actually.
They can, okay. Do you guys have is there like an office pool, like who can have the longest title?
I think it's more who loves their title more. I love saying I'm channel chief.
Oh, okay. And all right, let's dig into that. What does that mean? What is a channel chief?
So what it means at Verizon is the partnership with all these different companies that sell on behalf of Verizon. It is about $2 billion of revenue. And it's one of the things a lot of people don't know about us is that we have best-in-class partners who you may do business with that have relationships with us directly. And what we work on is how do we make that experience easy for customers? So when you're doing business with one of our partners, how do we make sure that you never know about all the duct tape that happens in the background to make it work for you?
And one thing I always find funny with companies like Verizon and even American Express is their focus on small business. And as an outsider, you're like, wait a minute, why are these giant companies wanting to help small business? So why does Verizon want to help small business?
So this is a big part of our new structure that's about 3 years old now, is Verizon Business Group is its own company. In its own right, we actually take care of companies across the globe, public sector, enterprise, and small business. And during COVID, we actually stood up my role because we realized that almost 50% of us are employed by a small business. And we needed to think about how their needs are different than the enterprise customer needs. And it became really clear very early on that this was a space that needed more investment, more time, and more feedback from customers because businesses in New York are different than businesses in New Orleans. And that's been what's been fun about my role. I'm just over a year into it, and it's been a heck of a ride.
And talking to members of your Verizon business team during the height of the pandemic, I mean, you guys went all in on support of small business. Looking at it now, over 2 years later now, what was the effect and the impact that Verizon had on small business?
I couldn't be more proud of the ways that we thought about businesses first. We have a credo at Verizon that says doing the right thing is good business and the right thing to do. And I think this was such a great example. So we did lots of things where we supported businesses, where we used them for, as an example, t-shirts that our employees wear, that we've been intentional about who we use in our supply chain. But we've also created an entire platform that is called Small Business Digital Ready. It is completely free and it is customized to you. And we started to pull together partners who had information and resources that small business owners needed. And it's been pretty incredible to continue to evolve that platform with their feedback and say, what else can we answer? What else can you do? Because one thing we've all learned during COVID, having a great product is not enough to survive as a small business. The fundamentals matter. And the fundamentals are common regardless of what industry you're in. Do you have a good digital platform? Can customers reach you? Do you have a security protocol? Those things are things we can help with, and we've really tried to be a partner who gives you a space to get that information.
And you just wrapped up Verizon Small Business Days, which ran from April 28th to May 4th. Can you tell me about the program and how it came out?
So it's become what I call my favorite holiday at Verizon. And it's been about picking moments where small business owners can invest in themselves. So we've done it right before NFL draft and Mother's Day. We've done it right before iPhone launch, and we've done it right before the holiday season. And what we're finding is customers want to do a couple of things. They want to, of course, get the latest and greatest technology, and I love that selfishly. But they also have questions. What does security mean? I don't know where to begin. I need internet. I know I do, but I don't understand what type of internet I need and what my options are. I really want to hire new people, but I don't know what I need from a tech standpoint to make them successful. So, what we offer is come to see us in any of our 7,000 doors of distribution, or call us 6 days a week, or talk to us on chat. And during that week, we will do a tech check on your business. We'll ask you questions. We'll talk to you about things we're doing for other customers like you. And of course, there are offers and there are ways for you to get new devices and new tech. But we found it's all about the conversations during Small Business Week, and this week was no exception.
Hmm. And so we talked about the way the Verizon stepped up to help small businesses during the pandemic, what you're doing with Small Business Days, and your role there. But talk to me about your day to day. Like, what is your mission when you wake up first thing in the morning, whatever time you wake up, that is? What is your mission each day in terms of like how your day breaks down?
So, the majority of my day is actually thinking about the people that work at Verizon, because I don't talk to customers every single day. They do. And what I've really enjoyed is that my job is nationwide. So I am either in the field talking to reps, I am hosting virtual meetings talking to reps, or I am going through results and feedback from customers and trying to understand what's happening and putting up a little bit of a weather vane. What are these new trends we're seeing? What do we need to be thinking about? And do I have an answer for the problems that business owners face? One of the greatest resources has been the Small Business Recovery Survey. We've been doing this throughout COVID, and it has given me a chance to hear what customers are thinking about, or I should say, business owners are thinking about, and then think, do I actually have a solution for them? So I like to think of myself as a small business advocate, that my job is to work inside the Verizon machine and make sure that every single day we are focused on products that small business owners want, that will bring value to them, and that is easy for our sales teams to deploy for them. Because I do believe that a great employee experience leads to a great customer experience. So I talk to customers just as much as I talk to our employees, and I think it matters.
Hmm. And let's talk about this, the results of that report that Verizon just put out. And one of the numbers that surprised me, let me know if it surprised you, that 71% of respondents believe their businesses are better off now than it was 1 year ago. That's a pretty high number. 71%, that's a lot of people. Did that number surprise you, or were you like, our work's paying off here?
So I didn't know what to expect. We put this survey in the field probably towards this tail end of Omicron. And you didn't really know what to think the owners would be thinking about, having seen a variant come through, differing approaches in different parts of the country. So I don't know that I had a guess. I think in the last survey, there was about a 52 or 53% optimism rate. It was so much better than I expected. And that just reminds me that small business owners have such a high hope EQ.
Hmm.
Like they just operate from a place of I will find a way. The other thing that I've realized is small businesses that have survived are some of the strongest we've ever seen, because these are businesses that adapted, and they are now seeing that not only can they bring back some of what used to make them successful, but that they can keep a lot of what they figured out during COVID. And that is where the optimism is coming from, is they have new revenue streams that weren't part of their business 2 years ago. And they feel like they can continue that. I'm excited to see the innovation that's going to come from that.
And one of the things that has been much talked about, much written about over the past year plus is the Great Resignation. And you obviously have relationships with all these small businesses, helping them move forward. Part of the study did talk about the Great Resignation, and you talk about the way these small businesses have adapted. And one of the things that came from the study was that 79% are either offering or planning to offer incentives and new benefits to attract. So obviously, all these small businesses, they're stepping up their game to fight off this Great Resignation.
They absolutely are. And I think of it as the great rethink. Everybody I know is at least thinking about, is there a better way or a different way? And small businesses are competing for talent with big business. They're competing with companies that can offer lots of things about stability. And business owners are thinking about what really attracts you to work in my small business. It's about the customer. It's about the prospect of doing new things. And it's about the fact that you can have an immediate impact on the business. So, collaboration tools that allow employees to feel connected to you in a small business are important, as an example. How do I have quality of life? We all talk about balance as if it really exists. How do I give my employees the feeling of balance when they're working remote from our office location? It's been interesting to see how these business owners are adapting, I think, faster than enterprise companies.
And one of the things you talked about is their adaptability. And part of that adaptability was their relationship with Verizon and the fact that many of them transitioned to digital operations. I think it was 63%, and then 73% added or upgraded communications networking hardware. That's, I believe, where Verizon comes in, right?
Absolutely. So, this question of digital evolution is a bit of a chocolate word to me. You say it and it means so many different things to everyone. But think about it. When you go online to search for whatever service you're looking for, are you likely to do business with someone that doesn't have a digital presence? It is really hard for businesses that don't have a professional digital presence to thrive right now. There is still a handful, but I would say that any small business owner is thinking about, what do I look like online? They're also thinking about, do I still look basic 2 years into COVID, or can I be transparent with information with my customer? So this is a big one to me. We've all had a delay in somewhere in our processes with business owners lately. Something has gotten there later than you expected. We've all learned to be tolerant of that, but we want information. I want to know where it is in your process, and I want to know when to expect it. And that means business owners have to be thinking about real time communication with their customers that allows them insight into where they are in your project flow. When's my appointment? Any way that I need to engage with you, I want to be able to see it. And customers who have figured out how to make those investments, how to make those things real time, get high marks from customers. And everyone has to figure out what investments that will require. But they also have to realize that what is good today is table stakes tomorrow. So I can see when I have my food delivered on the nights I don't make dinner, I can see exactly where the driver is. I know when they're pulling in. I know when they've left it. I know when they leave. I expect that from everyone I do business with now.
Hmm.
So small business owners have to be looking at bigger businesses, because that's where the customer perception and expectation is defined. And what we're trying to show them is, you can do anything a big business can do with the right technology. We can help you. But you can't do nothing, because customer expectations are changing faster than technology is even keeping up with it.
And on top of a pandemic, on top of a great resignation, on top of a social uprising, a lot going on in the last couple of years, then you add now global supply chain issues. How is that affecting small and medium businesses?
It's the biggest thing. That and inflation are the two things that every business owner is thinking about. Um, I will tell you that what we hear about is services. Business owners are all trying to figure out how they package or add into their process service that they control. So if it's a product, I want to add custom wrapping. I want to add pre-installing things on it. Things that allow me to differentiate just getting the box on time. So that's one piece. One way we've seen adaption is, I want to make sure that I can add services to the process. The second thing we've seen is them trying to really change what the customer expectations are. If I can add more customers, then I'm able to maintain my revenue without having to necessarily raise my prices. And that's been an interesting thing. The majority of the business owners told us they're doing business outside of their communities now. which I think has been something we weren't hearing from small business owners before COVID. They're also hiring outside of their communities now. We are a smaller country than ever before because of technology. So if you can start to solicit customers and offer different products and making sure that everything is not tied to a physical item needing to be delivered, you can maintain your revenue streams, but you have to get creative. What would level up the experience and what would make a customer wait versus canceling with you and moving on to someone who promises a faster delivery time?
So I want to circle back to something you mentioned earlier, and that's security. And cybersecurity
Yep.
is going to be an ongoing facet of every company. Like you need to be cyber secure. So I'd love to know how Verizon helps these small and medium sized businesses protect themselves, because they seem to be just as potential victims as a big major company is, because these hackers out there, they're casting such a wide net. They don't care who they're hitting up, whether it's a large or a small company. So how does Verizon help small businesses in that way?
I think the first thing is the conversation. Here's something I have found to be really interesting since COVID. None of us planned to be home this long. We all sort of thought it would be 3 or 4 weeks and life would go back to normal. And what employers said is, you have home internet, great, you can work from home. But did we really think about that? Did you really intend for me to be capturing your customer's credit card data on the same Wi-Fi as where my kid is playing on the PS5 and streaming Yellowstone? Did you really intend that? Probably not. Because one of the stats, actually, the stat that stands out the most for me through the survey is, if a small business has a data breach, 50% of the time they will go out of business in 2 years.
Wow.
So if business owners take that stat seriously, you would be thinking every day about, where is my customer's data and how do I protect it? Well, you protect it either with a mobile device manager, with dedicated business internet, with internet policies that allow you to blacklist and whitelist where your employees are going. But what you don't do is allow your customer data to sit on internet traffic that you do not control.
I'm just curious, are small businesses pretty active when it comes to worrying about security? Because I feel like if I was a small business guy, I'd be like, nah, I could, cut some corners, save a few bucks here without having, without having some sort of security measures in place. Is that something that small businesses are readily aware that is an important part of their bottom line, where they have to invest in that?
I think everyone is aware of it personally. I think small business owners worry so much about what they are great at doing that they don't always worry about the things they aren't so great at. And this is one of those things for me where I think if my team does its job, we are talking about the risk of exposure. And not from a fear standpoint, but from an empowerment standpoint. You need to have an internet policy. You need to have ways to control where your customer data sits. And you need to know when you've had a breach. If you can just start from those three things, do your people know what you want them to do? Do you understand all the places where your data is captured and housed? And if you have a breach, do you have alerts that tell you so that you can take immediate action? Those are small steps that every business owner can take, but they matter. And they matter just as much as, did the shampoo arrive for the people that I need to service today?
It is overwhelming. I can't even imagine. I'm sure the conversations you've had with team members and even small businesses over the last year of like, what it's been to survive in this day and age. Because I've never been a small business owner, but I can only imagine, even before all of the all of the things we've discussed today, how hard it was before that to now where it is today. It's a lot for these folks that are doing this.
Well, there's so much about your business you don't see anymore. One of the great things about most small business owners is that they have traditionally been able to see their customer, so they could tell if somebody was annoyed and they could really go over and make sure that they smooth that out. They could see their inventory. When they wanted it, it came and there it was. And they could see their employees. And suddenly the world has changed. And now your customer is probably over the phone or in a little square box on a video. Your employee is probably working in their yoga pants. And your inventory is somewhere in the supply chain that you are trying to track down.
Hmm.
As a business owner, the things that used to give you comfort have really changed. And if you're not doing different things, you're going to struggle as technology continues to be a factor in where we go from here.
And you feel more and more small businesses are embracing that, right?
I do, because I think businesses that have survived are the ones that are willing to adapt.
Yeah, I mean, and I will say one of the benefits of being a small business, and you've mentioned this a few times during this conversation, is the adaptability. And when you're a small business, it's actually easier to adapt than a large business. You know, you've heard the phrase ad nauseum when it comes to dealing with big companies. It's like trying to steer a tanker. It's it's slow and steady, whereas small businesses can pivot quickly. Do you think that's one of the advantages small businesses had during the pandemic, is the fact that they were able to pivot so quickly?
It is the biggest advantage. Is if you woke up and said, I'm going to do something different, it happened. Versus a big company who had to think about how to deploy itself in new ways. I think the small business owners that we talk to are sort of amazed at what they did in 2 years. I couldn't have imagined this could work. I couldn't have imagined that I would be doing 80% of my revenue through takeout. I would never have thought about this. It was all about my servers. Like it's such a different moment. And yet it feels like such a moment of opportunity because customers are willing to wait. Customers are willing to pay more, and customers are really driving the market. It's not necessarily commercials anymore. It's your great experience. You tell someone else and they support that same business. Word of mouth has never been more important than during COVID. And when you get to the point where word of mouth is what drives customer retention, small businesses can win every single day and twice on Sunday.
I love that. When I remember speaking to folks in real estate during early days of the pandemic, like March, April
Mhm.
2020, and people in real estate were like, "I'm done. No one's ever going to buy a house again. People are going to be stick where they are." And then the next thing you know, Wendy, I'm sure you're well aware, the real estate market exploded. There was obviously mass migration to other parts of the state, but basically anywhere you wanted to buy or rent a house, the prices were going through the roof, and then the availability was not there. So that surprised me about the pandemic. What surprised you most about the business sphere during the last couple of years?
Honestly, the industry that was the most amazing to me is food service. I think our appetite for takeout has never been so high. And suddenly you could the restaurant you used to get dressed up for was serving meals. And it was an option for you. And it's been fascinating watching them think about how to deliver a quality experience remotely and high-end restaurants. And I think that challenges every small business owner to think differently about what they could do. I also think one of the interesting things has been the migration of talent. We all talk about the war on talent. I think we overuse that term for a long time. There is an actual war on talent right now. People are looking for the right fit for them and their family based on what companies have to offer. And watching small businesses create flexibility, look for different ways to attract and keep talent has been impressive. It really has. I mean, thinking about a small business owner being willing to hire someone 8 states away to answer their phones and take orders when they were used to hiring the neighborhood kid and having them right in front of them and listening to every call they made. That's a pretty big adjustment for a small business owner. And yet they did it. And what it reminds me is the sky's the limit for them if they want it.
Yeah, I feel like you were talking about the war on talent, and we mentioned the Great Resignation earlier. I think, in a way, our recent past here, it's sort of been a comeuppance for bad leadership and bad bosses, because now people realize, I don't have to deal with this person anymore, or I don't have to deal with this industry anymore, because there are more options, whether it's because of technology or because things have changed in the world of business. But I think leadership has really risen in terms of importance for companies, because in the past it was like, oh, how much is this place going to pay me? How many hours do I got to work? Now it's like, No, I only want to work with people and leaders that are going to treat me right and treat me respectfully.
I think it's the biggest, there's been a lot of stories written about this, right? That toxic culture can really be a difference maker in the great rethink. I think it's 100% true. And what I find with small business owners, by the way, big businesses care, we care. I I feel like I need to like have a caveat here, but small business owners know that every experience is a difference maker for them. They value that word of the mouth. They value that neighborhood perception of them. This is a place where they can really have one-on-one connections with talent. And I think the stat is 53% of the small business owners have hired someone outside of the community that they work in. That's pretty stunning
Wow.
for people that have been used to having their workers in front of them. And if we can all figure out how to still connect when you're not face to face, I fully believe personal does not have to be face to face. The world is smaller than ever before, and you can create a great experience, whether it's with technology, whether it's through just taking time. We don't have to always be together, but it is also great when we are.
And there are lifers, and then there are Wendy Taccetta. You've been with Verizon for 22 years, and your
Mhm.
dad was a tech for 35 years. This is going to be a very simple question to a very complicated answer, but tell me about the impact that Verizon has had on you and your family.
Yeah, I like to call myself a Verizon baby. Um, so I'm first generation American. My dad came to the US, and New York Telephone Company was his first job. And that's where he spent his entire career. It's how my parents bought a home, sent me to Catholic elementary school in the Bronx, got me into Bronx High School of Science, and gave me a start in life. I am blessed to still be working for the same company that he did. I wish I could tell you it was planned. It wasn't. um, but I've been blessed to work for a company that's given my dad an immense amount of opportunity, and then gave me a chance to do marketing, sales, to live in 4 different states, and today to be part of helping the country recover and helping small businesses recover after what I think has been one of the craziest times of our lives. I couldn't be more blessed.
That's awesome. And it's funny because my previous job, I worked there for like 24 years. You've been there 22 years. Does it seem weird now that not only with the Great Resignation, but the more mobile nature of people in general? Like when I think we're probably around the same age, Generation Xers, where we're like, you want to find a job, you want that job, you want to have that job as long as you could, and then invest in your IRA and 401k, and then be able to retire. And now there's this whole new generation of people. Now, I know it's a blanket statement, but they're just more mobile. They're like, all right, cool. I'll work this job for a couple of years. I'll work this one for a few more years. Do you have trouble wrapping your brain around that too? Because I feel like we're very similar in that way.
I think a lot about this. They call this generation the job hopping generation for very good reasons. One, I think people go to college and they think they know what they're going to do, and then they come out and they're like, "Wait, I don't think that's what I wanted to do at all." So you have this thing of, I had this dream, like I thought I would be a lawyer because LA Law was the greatest show ever. Well, I came out into the real world and discovered I didn't want any part of that. Then you have this piece of, I get to the job and it's not what I thought it would be. Every job description sounds the same. It's going to be wonderful. You're going to have a great time and you're going to make a big impact. And then you get there and you realize that that's not exactly how the job works. So people continue to seek something else. And then I think there's opportunity. There's a lot of opportunity out there that people can go and pursue. I described it recently on a panel as a little bit of Tinder. That right now, everybody starts on the internet looking at jobs and they swipe left or right on the things that appeal to them. And then they start the job and it either lives up to the vision they had or it didn't. And they realize there were other options when I was looking through that Tinder list. Let me go see what else is out there. And I think that's who we are as a generation now, is I'm open to what else is out there. And that means as employers, as bosses, we have to earn our employees' loyalty every day. We have to be invested in, what does it take for this to be a great place for you to be? And I think that's a good thing for the industries, because it should be a two-way conversation between us and our employees.
It's funny. A friend of mine's a recruiter, and she says she doesn't refer to people as job seekers anymore. They're job shoppers. It's literally the same sort of
Yes.
mindset or thinking that you would for like buying a phone or or shoes is now how you're treating a job. Which to me, again, as a Gen Xer, it's really hard for me to wrap my brain around. But I totally get it, and you explained it perfectly there.
Because part of it is you used to want to work close to your home. Can I get to my kids' soccer event? And my hours need to be a certain style. Well, technology takes a lot of those boundaries off. You could be a US employee that's working for a UK based company. You could be working on completely different hours. Live my chief my I don't even know if I should call him my chief of staff. My everything guy works on the West Coast and I live on the East Coast. I couldn't have imagined that 3 years ago, but it works out great. And I think that's what's changed is that the pool of opportunity is different. Everyone can compete with technology regardless of where opportunities are based. Now, there are still industries, obviously healthcare, food service, where geo is going to matter, but there are a lot more jobs where it doesn't. And I think that's changed the whole game.
And lastly, Wendy, May is Mental Health Awareness Month. And earlier this year, you had tweeted this really great quote about hope. And if you only carry one thing throughout your entire life, let it be hope. In closing, talk to me about the importance of hope and why hope matters.
My word for the year has been resilience, because I think it encapsulates what is necessary, at least for me, to navigate the unknown right now. And some of it is work hard. Some of it is make sure that you're constantly learning. Some of it is make sure that you can engage with people. But I think the most important part is to believe that there will be good days ahead and that there will be great days ahead too. I think we expect everybody to have a great day. And when we say, "How are you doing?" we tend to go, "Oh, yeah, 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 you're great." And we don't always hear what the other person is saying. But if COVID taught us anything, it's that everyone is going through something, but none of us have to go through it alone. So I try to remind myself on the great days to actually sit in the moment and enjoy it and celebrate it. On the good days, to remind myself there are more good days than not. And on the days that are neither, to remind myself that everything passes. And tomorrow is a great opportunity to have another great one. And it's okay if today's not a great day. And I do think from a mental health standpoint, we have to do a better job of hearing each other. We have to be willing to say, everything's not great in my life either. And we have to go forward together. I think this is the one thing that I still fear about post-COVID is as people talk about, should I work in the office? Should I not? Should I commute? Should I not? How do we not lose touch with each other? That's going to be the big question for all of us is if we really want to move forward, how do we leave no one behind?
That's great. Wendy, thank you so much for the time. I do have one quick thing. You should probably rethink calling yourself a Verizon baby because people will think you were conceived in a Verizon store. So just keep that in mind going forward because that's the first thing that popped in my brain when you called yourself a Verizon baby.
Oh, that's hilarious.
You just may want to think about that. But outside of that, this has just been a fantastic conversation. I appreciate the time. Her name is Wendy Taccetta. She's Senior Vice President for Nationwide Small Business and Channel Chief for Verizon Business. Wendy, thank you so much for the time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Have a great one.
And that's it for this episode of the Forbes Books Podcast. If you enjoy the show, make sure you take a quick second to subscribe so you automatically get new shows when they drop. Also, if you have a minute, I would love if you left us a review so more amazing entrepreneurs like yourself can discover the show. And please don't forget the golden rule and treat others as you want to be treated. Thanks for listening. Until next time, adios.